Alright guys, welcome back. Eustace approached me and held the sword out as if it were the most natural thing in the world. The pommel toward me, the blade resting at her side, bounced flat on her palm. Now, be very careful. Grasp it firmly with both hands. Everyone was looking at me expectantly. I don't know. Excuse me, I don't know. Head wig, head wig, head wig. Head wig, head wig, head wig. Head wig, head wig. Everyone began chanting in unison, even Eustace. There was nothing else for it. I took the sword in my hands and everyone cheered. How does it feel? It's much lighter than it looks. I saw my reflection in the blade. It was an odd sensation. I suddenly felt very powerful. I turned the blade over with a quick little flip. It felt so natural. What does it say? I hadn't even held the sword for a minute and I already felt as if I were equipped to take the war. I was surprised to discover that there was an engraving in Hebrew on this side of the blade near the crossguard. How odd, I thought. Well, I recognized the script, I could not read it. I didn't have long to muse over it, however. That might have been a clue, though. Step over here. Careful now. To this cask, Sister Hedwig. Everybody else should stand back. Now lift it up. I was not really listening. I knew what to do. With a speed that evidently surprised Adela, I swung the blade down to the top of the barrel in front of me. Not bad, but you must swing more confidently. Try. But I was already swinging down the blade again. The barrel gave way and red sherry came bursting forth all. Everyone cheered. The wine was all over my wimple and frock, but there was nothing I could do about that. I gave the broken barrel a few more gleeful hacks before Adela stayed my arm, laughing. Give someone else a turn. Who wants to go next? It's like whacking what do you call that? A piñata. There's just enough casks all for us to do one, I think. Everyone clambered around. Adela held her hand out to me expectantly. That sword? Hedwig. Oh, yes, of course. I handed the sword back to her gingerly. I didn't want to let go, because she had all that power. The crackling energy didn't subside, thankfully. Adela took her turn next. She began her assault on the cask in front of her with a violent thrust into the dead center of the lid, as if she were attempting to pierce a wooden shield. The tip of the blade wedged itself between two of the planks and she pressed forward with a slight twist. The entire lid buckled and split apart immediately. Adela was covered head to toe by red sherry. She giggled, then held the sword aloft similar to the way Eustace had, and gave a mighty war cry. That is how it is done. The sisters present all clapped for the expert swordswoman, and she gave a low bow and held the sword out for the next contestant. Catherine stepped forward. The end of her cloak drifted atop a flood of wine that was spreading rapidly outward from our position. I suppose tomorrow will be laundry day. We might need to get new frocks. It's worth it. One by one, the rest of the sisters attacked their designated wine casks. Catherine opened with a horizontal swing that the rest of us instinctively ducked. She apologized and instead popped her cask with a wicked diagonal strike that crushed the angle where the lid and rim met. She hacked away at this opening until the lid splintered apart completely. Moira's turn took a moment to get going, whereas I had been surprised at how light the sword felt. She clearly found it rather heavy. It was somewhat comical when she took the sword from Catherine and nearly fell over when the taller woman let go. She chopped away at the top of her barrel as if she were splintering firewood. It took some doing, but she got there eventually, and we all clapped and cheered as she gave us a slightly embarrassed bow. Eustace dispatched her cask with shocking efficiency, however. In 7 rhythmic strikes, left, right, top thrust, she completely shattered the lid. She hit it more times than Adela, but both of them were easily the most practiced. Darcy held her sword by the blade when she stepped up, prompting all of us to rush towards her to stop it. All save for Adela, who began arguing that this was a perfectly valid technique. You'll hurt yourself. I wrapped my hands in my sleeves. It'll work. Are you sure? A pummel strike is actually very efficient, especially against these barrels. Darcy's not a soldier. She's going to... Darcy gave the bung of a barrel a surprisingly swift bat with the rounded bottom of the sword handle while the others were arguing. It popped free instantly, spraying everyone with sour-smelling sherry. Easy. Eustace gave her friend a withering look. Good work, Darce. I told you. Margaret, it's your turn. Catherine had to call across the room to get Margaret's attention. I did not notice that she had wandered so far afield. Margaret? Margaret did not answer. She was sitting on the bottom of the staircase, back on the cloister, her head buried in her arms. Perhaps she dozed off. It is rather late. Then she volunteered to ring the bell tomorrow. However, Margaret was not asleep. She lifted her head up from the depths of her cloak and stared at us balefully with glistening eyes. Wine is a mocker, strong drink, brawler, whoever is led astray. I wanted to say something to apologize, even though I had no idea what I would be apologizing for. Something about this impromptu cast smashing ritual bothered her, although I had no idea what had prompted a reaction this strong. Moira was closely connected to the wine after all, and she had merely given us all a stern goodbye. Margaret looked to be in pieces, however. I felt awful. I didn't get a chance to say anything, though. Catherine coaxed her friend away privately, and they dispersed up the staircase into the darkness while the rest of us said awkward farewells. A long night, I think. Was smashing all those a bit... gosh. Disrespectful to Catherine's memory, perhaps? I intended it that way. Hopefully she understands that. It was a good idea, Sister Eustace. We climbed the staircase together, then turned back towards the cellars to admire our handiwork. Moira started giggling. The superior is going to kill us. Let her try. That was the most spiritually satisfying thing I've done in ages. Ah! Sister Flora! What about Sister Flora? She did not get a chance to join us. It was her actions that inspired the whole exercise. We should find her. There's one cask of Catherine's awful sherry left, I believe. I suppose it'd only be fair. Good thinking. I'll check the cloister in the garden. Maybe she's just getting some fresh air. I will scour the dorms and kitchens. I'll look around the grounds. Hedwig? I'll search wherever's left. The chapel? Adela can cover the chapel. That's closer to the kitchens. You should check the rest of the upstairs, maybe. The hallways and such. By my own cell? Exactly. Let's meet back here once we're all finished looking, eh? I did not adore this idea, but I wasn't about to argue with Eustace in front of Adela and Moira. We traipsed up the stairs and went our separate ways. Eustace was still carrying the sword with her, swinging it idly at her side as if it were any old thing. As I found myself along the dark passageways, I began to wish I had a weapon as well. That hot rush of power holding that sword had rapidly dissolved in the cold night air. I walked down the hall toward the intersection and I had seen Eustace's horrible ghost visage with caution. The wind was picking up. I could hear that the big door rattling again in the distance. I thought about peeking outside, but there was no chance that Flora was out on the wall when it was this cold and windy. That's how I excused myself anyway. In truth, I did not want to be startled by the door slamming again. Flora? I turned the corner away from the door. Flora? I could hear something strange underneath the wind. It was higher pitch and irregular in rhythm. It came from down the dark passageway to my cell. I braved a few steps forward to confirm it. I was sure of it. The sound got louder the further I walked. The hair on the back of my neck stood up straight. If Eustace was visiting the garden, then there was no way this could be a tired retread of her old jokes. It was an unearthly wail. It echoed around the whole hall, bouncing from wall to wall, pillar to pillar. I thought about the passageway Margaret had shown me, the demonic circle etched into the stone. The Bargus... I cannot bear it one moment longer. That scared me, by the way. I turned tail and sprinted out of the hall. Whatever the noise was, I told myself, it couldn't have been her. No joy? Eustace was already waiting when I arrived back at the cellar staircase. I shook my head as I came to a stop. Nothing, I'm afraid. I couldn't find her either. It's too dark to see out there without a proper torch, and all I had was a little candle. I doubt she's outside at all, to be honest. It's too damn cold. It is, isn't it? We stood in silence for a moment. I trust tonight gave you some catharsis? Oh, very much so. Good. I think we can all call that the end of it. She looked down the stairs into the darkness. Goodbye, Catherine. I don't know what to say. She had pivoted from a slightly threatening to slightly forlorn so quickly I had no recourse. I think breaking the cask was a very sweet idea. Do you? That's good. I didn't thank you for someone for impromptu ritual. No, but... This felt right. It did, didn't it? I said whatever I could to steer the conversation away from where this started. I wanted Eustace to be satisfied that I would adhere to her request to stop searching. I did not want to have to lie about it aloud again. Adela arrived next. She was alone as well. I could not find her. Me either. Moya was just behind Adela, jogging back to our meeting spot. Ah, well, we tried. Yo, she better not be dead. That's likely good enough. Agreed. I would have felt bad if we did not at least make an effort. I do hope she's somewhere safe. This is a big Abby, and she is a crafty young woman. I'm not worried. She's sulking. She probably does not want to be found. True. It's very late. We should call it a night. Flora will find their way to bed, I'm sure. Superior is already going to have a conniption when she sees the state of the cellars. I dread to think what she'll do if we all sleep through service. Yes, we can't miss service. We all walked upstairs back to the dorms in silence. We said our goodnights in the dorm hall and retired to our separate rooms. For once, I fell asleep swiftly, but morning came far too soon. I think sleeping at all made things worse for me, truth be told. Have you ever had that experience? I could stay awake for quite a long time if I had to. But if I fall asleep, I need a proper full night of rest. I groaned when I woke up. I don't know how long I had even managed to sleep for. I got dressed and stuck my head out into the hallway and my heart sank. There was no activity in the hall, and a few doors were ajar. I was late for service. I scurried down the stairs as quickly as I could. The rain clouds that had been looming last night had finally broken. I could see a dyed black line of nuns entering the chapel ahead of me. I thank God that I wasn't too late. As I made my way inside, I sensed that the mood was grim. I looked around at everyone. The sisters looked slightly haggard and paler than what was usual. Nobody was speaking. I did not see Flora anywhere. My heart sank. Margaret was sitting near the front of the chapel, her head resting on her closed fist. She had evidently gotten here first. I'm sorry, everyone. I volunteered to ring the bells this morning, but I forgot. She was staring straight ahead at something. Everyone looked so upset I half expected to see a dead body lying on the altar as I got closer. However, Margaret was staring dead ahead at a crumpled pile of wooden wreckage sitting on the floor in front of her. The portative organ. Oh, Margaret. I was trying to fix it. There was this piece that Catherine and I would always take out for a laugh. I know you all know. And I thought to myself recently, this joke is wearing a bit thin. Maybe it's not the best time. I came back in here to pop the missing piece back in and... crash. Nobody spoke. Are you gonna tell her? God, no. If one of you wants to sell me out, feel free. I'm not gonna get myself in trouble. The gathered sisters awkwardly took their seats in the pews. We waited for a while, listening to the sound of the rain. I was trying to do something nice, and then it fell. I can't complain, I suppose. The door finally swung open again. I turned around to see the bishop holding it open for the superior. She glowered as she strode forward. Each of her footsteps echoed with a terrible and heavy thud against the chapel floor. After what felt like hours, she stopped in the middle of the room to address the women sitting in the pews. Sister Flora is missing. If anyone would like to claim credit for hiding her away somewhere, I would ask that you speak up now. I will be just and fair. I understand that this would not be the first time a practical joke went too far. Nobody spoke. I assume the mess in the cellars has something to do with it. I am offering clemency. Will nobody take responsibility for their actions? Very well. Should your conscience recover, you may reclaim some decency by confessing to me privately in my office after service. She looked around the chapel sternly. Everyone averted their gaze. Ah, crap, she's dead, isn't she? With a sharp sigh, she moved forward toward the altar. Each footstep echoed terribly in my head. I could see Margaret tensing up ahead of me. There was a pause. Oh, hell. Everyone jumped. The spirit had seen the portative organ. She flew up the steps to the altar in a rage. Margaret? Catherine? Which one of you was it? Silence. Eustace? Who did it? I know it was one of you. The room was utterly airless. It had to be someone here. We don't have ghosts here. Nor spirits, Bargus, or any other devilish creatures. I know. I know it had to be someone in this room. Who else could it have been, You all protect each other? Don't for one second think I cannot see it. I scarcely know this place anymore. You all hide every aspect of it from me. It matters not if it's missing bread roll or a piece of portative organ or a murdered sister. Superior, are you not feeling well? No, Sister Mora, I am not feeling well. My youngest charge is missing. I pray to God that she hadn't met the same fate as Sister Catherine. And do you know why I pray? Because I have a congregation of rats gnawing at my ankles. There is nothing you will allow me to do. I'm supposed to be in charge. I am Mother Superior. But I understand who is really in control here. It is not me, it is all of you. Each and every one of you spend your days trying to find the cleverest little ways to defy my wishes and orders. Perhaps we should take a moment to calm ourselves. Perhaps try to put this instrument of yours back together. I'm sure this young sister is simply playing truant. The Superior raised a silencing hand to the bishop, who looked dismayed. It is very hard living here. Is it so difficult not having to want for anything? To not have to throw yourselves at some awful man or beg for money on the street? This place gives you everything. I give you everything. But it's never enough. You'll have the run of the place for almost every hour of every day, but the barest of responsibilities, the smallest courtesies, are too great an ask for you. Oh no, you could not possibly spend 30 miserable minutes listening to some liturgical music. You undoubtedly all have pressing plans today. I'm certain that they're important, drinking yourselves into a stupor in the Misericorde perhaps. Or are you all waiting to dance around Flora's body, trussed up like a maypole? I've turned a blind eye to all manner of vices in my tenure here. Do not pretend I am unaware. Manly, selfish sodomites, the lot of you. She loomed over the altar, breathing raggedly. Her eyes darted between all of the women present, who squirmed uncomfortably and looked away. I just can't bear being treated this way any longer. Could any of you? How many of you can stand to live the way you all conspire to make me live? I took a peek into the cellars this morning. Broken barrels, wine all over the floor. It stunk to high heaven. I could deal with that on its own. I wouldn't stop you all from having your fun. But where's Flora? What happened, Will one come forward? Very well. She stepped down the altar. The bishop made to follow her. He looked gravely concerned. The Superior looked straight ahead as she strode defiantly out of the chapel. Service is concluded. Do whatever you like. Mabel. The bishop turned around as he reached the door. He shot an apologetic glance around the room, then bounded out to the Superior as they swung shut. We were left in the dark. Sorry. I was a bit preoccupied last night. Where's Flora? An uneasy feeling was starting to build in the room. We don't know. We looked for her last night after everyone left the cellar. We thought she should have her turn of smashing the barrels with us. Don't you dare blame me. I wouldn't dream of it. I don't like this. Me either. If she left her of her own accord, Flora is responsible for her own choices. She may be the youngest of us, but she is 19 years of age. Flora would have a family by now were she not here. Responsibilities. She ran off after Marta hit her. Don't you dare blame me for this. I wouldn't dream of it. Thank you for setting me straight, Eustace. I merely assumed as I was not there. Are you really going to make this about your lack of invitation? As if you would have enjoyed it. That is not what we were discussing. No, but you thought you could sneak in a complaint or two because you're annoying. Quiet. Charity had stepped in up to the altar. She looked rather commanding and deadly serious. Listen to yourselves. There's only one thing that should be on anyone's mind right now. Finding Sister Flora. Aye? Her question was met with a unanimous mumble of acknowledgement. Last night it sounds like a few people poked around looking for her. But now all of us are here. No fighting now. We're all on the same side, aren't we? Let's split up and search this whole damn place for our Flora. At the very least, I want to be able to show the Superior we can take care of our own. Aye? Another approving murmur. What was the passage Captain like to quote at times like this? I was taken aback. What on earth did Luke have to do with this? Nevertheless, I was impressed with the ease with which Eustace recited the scripture. Everyone else murmured along with her. That is enough. Lovely. Off we go then. We all filed out of the church. There was an odd energy about, a sense of purpose. I was not entirely sure what just transpired. I was turning those words from Luke over and over in my head as we began spreading throughout the cloister. Why that passage? What did those words mean to these women? Can we translate that in English though? And what did they have to do with finding a missing girl? I was baffled, but I was at least relieved to be free from the confines of the chapel. I decided to begin my search in the garden. Most of the others, it seemed, were headed towards the main building. I really did hope Flora was safe, but right now I just wanted to be alone. I had had quite enough group discussion for one morning. Even in the rain, the flowers were quite lovely. They bounced up and down, the raindrops hit them. There was a faint and pleasant rustling all throughout the grounds. I walked up and down the hedgerows. I was not sure what to expect. Would Flora jump out from behind a bush? Was I likely to find her sulking in a bed of carrots? I began to feel quite guilty. I wasn't helping. I was taking a relaxing stroll amongst the flowers. Campy had emerged from underneath the thicket in front of me. Seemingly unbothered by the rain, it sat in my path and leveled a curious stare my way. Go on. Shoo. You'll catch a cold in this weather. Do cats catch colds? The cat flicked its tail back and forth and stared at me. It looked thoughtful. I felt like I was being sized up. I suppose I should thank you. You took the blame for the ink bottle after all. Yes, I was losing my grip on things a bit, wasn't I? Talking to a cat. What was I thinking? It seemed to understand me, however, because vermin share a secret language. It walked forward and rubbed itself against my ankles, disappearing under my robe for just a moment. Ah, don't touch me. I hopped to the side. The little creature trotted back to where it had been sitting before, only this time it didn't look at me. It turned its gaze up into the air and began to make an unpleasant chittering sound. I tilted my head up to see what it was looking at. I half expected to see those mysterious pennants again, but there was nothing. Only rain clouds and passing birds. When I looked down, the cat was gone. I sighed and peered into the sky once more, just in case I had missed whatever the little creature had seen. There was nothing amidst the clouds. However, out of the corner of my eye, I saw something on the parapet overlooking the garden. There it was again, looking straight at me. I bolted back the way I had come, through the bushes and edges. I hoped I could disappear in the flowers. When I stopped to catch my breath, I looked back at the building in the distance. It was gone. I was safe from whatever it was, for the time being anyway. Enjoy the violets while you can. It'll snow soon. Oh, hello Eustace. Has Flora been around? No. I just need a break. I've been all around the grounds. Then I went to look in the library, but it's been locked since last night. No way Flora could be in there, thankfully. I was half expecting to find her scribbling rude drawings into your chronicles. I'm not worried about that. I doubt anyone would want to tamper with my writing. Eustace pantomimed the mock shiver. Horrible. I always worry about that. I always have work undone. Right, well, a break can do a lot of good. Perhaps we'll think of somewhere else to look. We stood and admired the flowers together. I've been meaning to ask you, how are you taking to chronicling? I can't help but notice that you still tend to finish quite early. Oh, it's been no problem. I'm sure I'll come into my own once I've had a little more time practicing the fundamentals. As long as nothing's bothering you. I know we made up on the cart ride, but... Oh no, not at all. I'd given her a little spat a second thought. Well, that's good. I really am sorry about all that. Her expression stayed inscrutable as ever. There's no need. Sister Eustace, I have been sad about something else. Flora will turn up. No, it's not that. I'm afraid Sister Catherine II. She has not left my thoughts even though I was not party to the event. Forgive me if I'm going in circles here, but I've still been hearing so much about her, but at the same time, very little. If that makes any sort of sense. It does, although it doesn't surprise me. You weren't here. I mean, you were, but you weren't. You don't really understand what she meant to us. You should be glad of that. Keep it that way. Hedwig. You must be exceedingly careful. This isn't the first time you've cautioned me. What do you really mean? I don't think I need to say more. I am afraid you must. Eustace gave me a piercing look for a few moments, but then relented with a small sigh. Listen, I don't intend to be rude about it. You and I are very similar in some regards. Were you anchored at some point? No. But we both bristle easily at misunderstanding, don't we? I cannot disagree. Conversation is difficult. I understand. I can sense the questions you're dancing around while talking to me, hoping that I'll answer without you asking. I just don't want you to wander into a situation you can't handle with someone else here. I can't fault your curiosity, but you must understand that losing Catherine II was shocking in many ways for many people for many reasons. Reasons that someone not deeply embedded in Limbarrow could never understand. And you're worried I'll upset someone, more or less. I'm only trying to help you. I keep finding you swinging sticks around wasps' nests. Do I come across that way? A little girl swinging a toy sword around? Yes. The superior meant well, but she had a bit too much faith in her own clever idea, I think. I was able to figure out what you were up to. Someone else might catch up. How can I not ask after Catherine? She is nowhere, but she is everywhere. She has been brought up to me several times without me asking. She's inescapable. Even if I wasn't in charge to investigate her death, I would have heard about her and I would have been curious. I never even saw her body. I have no idea what she looked like. But nonetheless, everyone here has painted a picture of her in my mind. Listen, if it helps, you can just ask me. Ask anything you'd like. You don't have to try and beat it out of me. What happened? The day it all happened? Well, I'd gotten up early to do some work in the library. Sister Charity found the body on her morning walk. She was beside herself. Catherine's body was in the middle of the cloister. She'd been beheaded, although later we discovered that wasn't her only wound. Evidently, there was a struggle between her and her attacker. Of course, we didn't have time to sit around and speculate. Marta comforted Charity while the rest of us scrambled around looking for the killer. I checked upstairs in the Misericorde library. I reasoned that those might be good hiding places. I remember Darcy checked the dormitories. It was a day like any other. It felt strange. As if we were all still working as normal, off doing our separate tasks. It was still just a morning at the Abbey. When I couldn't find anyone in the library, I went downstairs to the Superior's office. Apparently, I was the first to think of letting her know. She and Angela were still preparing for the morning's liturgy, but as soon as I told her what was happening, she joined the search. Eventually, we ran out of places to look that weren't already covered. I remember passing Adela coming up from the cellar shaking her head. The Superior, Moira, and I attended to the body while the search continued throughout the grounds. We took Catherine's body to the chapel and laid her under the altar, and covered her with a blanket until she could arrange a burial. It was probably for the best that Moira and I handled it. I think the two of us have the strongest constitutions out of anyone here. Eventually, Sister Angela hauled the young man in on his ear, who I vaguely recognized as being our delivery boy. She said that she found him hiding in the east grounds. I stressed that it was normal for him to be here in the morning, and that the commotion could have just scared him, but then Darcy wandered in holding his traveling cloak. It was covered in blood. She said she had seen it in his cart, and that was that. The Superior and Moira dragged the fellow to the hospitalum, and here we are, with a new chronicler. They took him straight to the hospitalum? Immediately. Everyone looked ready to tear him to pieces. You should have heard what some of the sisters were shouting as the Superior left. It just doesn't seem right, although I suppose it was better to lock him away in the dungeon than leave him with everyone's mercy. I spoke to him, you know, in the hospitalum. I know he could be a simple liar, but he pleaded so earnestly. It felt so strange. It doesn't feel right to keep him there. Why does the hospitalum have a dungeon? Eustace's eyes narrowed. She stepped toward me without warning, pushing me into the flower bush uncomfortably. Hedwig, listen to me very closely. I thought I had made it clear, but apparently I am not getting through. Be careful. She had me by the scarf of my robe, and even though she was slightly shorter than me, I felt terribly threatened. Why can't you trust me? I am doing everything in my power to help you. Flora wasn't careful, and look where we are now. Well, Flora wasn't looking, was she? She was just playing around. That's a whole completely different scenario than what you're painting. I do not want to see anyone else get hurt. See, this is bad. The way she keeps doing this makes her come off like she knows something and she might be a part of it. I do not want to see you fall victim to your own meddling. I need you to stay out of this. I don't know what you're talking about, Eustace. Stay. Out of it. Leave it alone. Alright, from here on, she's on the list now. Fuck it. Alright, Eustace. Now I'm gonna start questioning. I don't care if you're innocent now until you prove otherwise. This is a problem. She's hiding something big. Her words seemed to echo around the garden for a few moments. Her demand even scared some of the birds away. Finally, she stepped off. She brushed off her robe, still looking at me intensely. You have to trust me. Whatever the Superior is putting you up to, you need to stop it. Please don't misunderstand me, Hedwig. I am on your side. Nope. Nope, nope. I don't trust you. Do you believe James killed her? Hedwig. Do you believe it? No. Then surely you understand that I can sympathize, but you need to let it go. Are you trying to find the truth as well? Maybe we can work together. The most helpful thing you can do right now is nothing at all. Alright, screw it. You're a part of it. I don't care. You're a problem.